The gravel crunches under my tires as I pull into Grandma Josephine's driveway, and I'm already fighting tears. 12 hours in pediatric scrubs will do that to you. 12 hours of fevers and frightened children and parents who look at you like you're supposed to have all the answers. My blue Honda pickup feels like it's moving through molasses. Like my body knows what's waiting inside that white farmhouse with its peeling paint and sagging porch. I should have come straight here after my shift, but I sat in the hospital parking lot for 20 minutes just breathing, just being still. Arthur's Mercedes is parked at an angle near the front steps. Courtney leans against it, scrolling her phone with that manic energy she gets when things aren't going her way. Her father stands beside her, face red as a stoplight, jabbing at his own phone. "I don't care what the bank says!" Arthur's voice carries across the yard. "I need more time." I duck my head, pretending I don't hear. That's what I do. Always have. Courtney doesn't even look up from her screen. "Dad, I just lost a 5-figure brand deal. If this old woman doesn't leave us this house, we are finished." My grandmother. She's talking about my grandmother like she was an inconvenience who finally got out of the way. I grip my steering wheel until my knuckles turn white, but I don't say anything. I never do. Instead, I grab my purse and head for the front door, eyes on the warped wooden steps I've climbed 1,000 times. The screen door creaks the way it always has. That sound used to mean coming home. Now it feels like walking into a trap. Inside, the living room is packed. Every chair taken, people standing along the walls, conversations dropping to whispers the second I appear. I scan the faces cousins I haven't seen in years, neighbors from down the road, Uncle Liam with his weathered hands folded in his lap. Mom waves from the love seat. Helen Mitchell, 53 years old and still trying to keep everyone happy. Still trying to smooth things over. She's saved me a seat beside her, and when I sink into it, she squeezes my hand. Her palm is damp. "You okay, honey?" she whispers. I nod because that's easier than the truth. The room smells like old coffee and the lavender sachets Grandma kept in every drawer. I close my eyes for a second, and I'm back here 4 years ago. Right after Grandpa's funeral, when the house still felt too big and too quiet, Grandma had bought herself a tablet. One of those fancy ones she had no idea how to use. I found her in the kitchen, glaring at the screen like it had personally offended her. "I'm too old for this, honey," she'd said, shoving it toward me. "Nonsense, Grandma. You've got this." I'd pulled up a chair, showed her how to tap and swipe, how to find her email. She'd been so frustrated at first, stabbing at the wrong icons, sighing every few seconds, but then she got it. Her face had lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "Well, look at that," she'd said, grinning. "I'm not completely useless after all." We'd sat there for an hour, just her and me. She'd asked about my life, my dreams. I'd admitted I wanted to open a clinic someday, a place for kids whose families couldn't afford much. Kids who needed someone to care. She'd nodded slowly, her eyes sharp and knowing. Now that is a fine legacy. A door opens somewhere in the back of the house, and I snap back to the present. Mr. Elias Thorne enters carrying a leather briefcase that looks older than I am. He's wearing a gray suit, his expression carefully neutral. Everyone shifts. The whispers stop completely. Thorne takes his place at the head of the room, sets his briefcase on the coffee table with a soft thud. He looks around at all of us, then opens the case with 2 sharp clicks. "Thank you all for being here," he says. His voice is steady, professional. "As you know, we're gathered for the reading of Josephine Mitchell's last will and testament." My throat tightens. Hearing her name out loud makes it real all over again. Thorne pulls out a document, adjusts his reading glasses. Mrs. Mitchell was very specific about her wishes. Let's begin. He starts with the smaller bequests. Liam gets $40,000. He nods, his eyes glistening. Mom gets $75,000, and she covers her mouth, tears spilling over. Then Thorne's gaze shifts. To Arthur Vance and his wife, I leave $15,000. Arthur scoffs. Actually scoffs. His wife mutters something I can't quite hear, but her expression says plenty. To Courtney Vance, I leave $5,000. Courtney's face goes stone cold. Her knuckles whiten around her phone. Thorne clears his throat. As for the remainder of the estate, including the farmhouse, the surrounding 20 acres, and all financial assets, valued at approximately $3.5 million, I leave it to... Stop. Courtney is on her feet, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. Every head turns. Before you say her name, Courtney says, pointing directly at me, everyone needs to know that Cassandra is a thief. The room erupts, gasps, mutters. Someone behind me whispers, "What?" I can't move, can't breathe. My vision tunnels. Courtney steps forward, her voice gaining momentum. Over the past 8 months, items have been disappearing from this house. A Patek Philippe watch, a sapphire necklace, gold coins, $45,000 worth of valuables, just gone. She turns to face the crowd, playing to them like she's performing. And who was here every single weekend? Who had access to every room in this house? She wasn't visiting Grandma. She was casing the joint. Arthur nods, backing her up. It's true, we've all noticed things missing. Beatrice, one of Mom's friends, speaks up from the corner. I saw Cassie at the pawn shop downtown. 6 months ago. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now. I remember that day. Grandma had asked me to take some jewelry to get appraised for insurance. I'd driven her there myself. She'd been right beside me. But I can't say that. My voice is buried somewhere deep in my chest, locked behind years of keeping quiet, of avoiding confrontation, of letting things slide to keep the peace. Mom squeezes my hand harder. Cassie, say something. I open my mouth. Nothing comes out. Courtney smiles. It's a small, triumphant smile. And in that moment, I realize she's been planning this. All of it. Thorne raises one hand, and somehow that small gesture cuts through the chaos. Please be seated, Miss Vance. Courtney freezes mid-rant, her mouth still open. Sit. Down. Thorne's voice doesn't rise, but there's steel in it. She drops into her chair like a puppet with cut strings. Arthur also sits, his jaw clenched so tight I can see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. Thorne pulls out a laptop. Then a hard drive, small and black, which he sets on the coffee table like he's presenting evidence in a courtroom. Mrs. Mitchell, he says, anticipated this exact scenario. My heart stutters. The room goes silent except for someone's ragged breathing. It might be mine. Arthur stands up again. What is this? You can't record people. That's illegal. 8. Perfectly legal in one's own home, Mr. Vance. Thorne doesn't even look at him. I suggest you sit down as well. Arthur doesn't sit. He stands there, fists balled at his sides, face going from red to purple. Thorne opens the laptop, his movements calm and precise. Mrs. Mitchell discovered the theft approximately 8 months ago. She wanted to involve the police immediately. 8 months. My mind reels. Grandma knew. She knew, and she never said a word to me. However, Thorne continues, I advised a different approach. We waited. We documented. We built a case for conspiracy, fraud, and slander. The word Haslander hangs in the air like smoke. Courtney's face has drained of color. She looks at her father, but Arthur is staring at Thorne's laptop like it might explode. I'm still frozen. Still can't speak. But something is shifting inside me, some locked door beginning to crack open. Thorne's office. 8 months ago. I can see it so clearly now, even though I wasn't there. Grandma would have sat across from him, her back straight despite the arthritis, her hands folded in her lap. Those sharp hazel eyes, my eyes missing nothing. Elias, she would have said. They are family. That's why I have to do this. I know exactly how her voice would have sounded. Angry, yes, but controlled. Always controlled. She wouldn't have cried. Grandma never cried. She'd have laid out the facts like she was listing ingredients for a recipe. The missing watch, the sapphire necklace, the gold coins, all of it. And she would have said what she always said about doing the right thing, even when it hurt. I won't let greed destroy my innocent granddaughter. Thorne would have nodded, suggested the strategy. Wait, watch. Document everything. Build me a case that will hold up, Grandma would have said. Conspiracy, fraud, whatever it takes. And she would have nodded when he explained the plan, just once. Firm, final, do it. The memory fades, and I'm back in the living room. Thorne is connecting the laptop to the television mounted above the fireplace. The same TV where Grandma and I watched cooking shows on Sunday afternoons. There are 2 primary parties involved in this theft, Thorne says. His voice is steady, almost bored, like he's reading a weather report. Miss Courtney Vance, who executed the thefts, and Mr. Arthur Vance, who enabled and benefited from them. That's a lie, Arthur shouts. Nobody else speaks. The neighbors along the wall lean forward. Mom's grip on my hand has gone from comforting to painful. They're financially desperate, Thorne continues, ignoring the outburst. Miss Vance's brand partnerships have been falling through. Mr. Vance's vape stores are mortgaged beyond their value. The bank has been calling in loans. How does he know all this? But of course he knows. Grandma would have made sure he knew everything. For them, Thorne says, this house represents survival, not simply greed. The screen flickers to life. Black and white footage. I recognize Grandma's office immediately. The desk, the filing cabinet, the window that looks out over the garden. A figure enters the frame. Courtney. The timestamp in the corner reads, 8 months ago, 2:47 p.m. She moves quickly, purposefully. Opens the desk drawer. Her hand darts in and out. Something disappears into her jacket pocket. Gold coins. I can just make out their gleam before they vanish. Someone gasps. Multiple people. The room erupts in whispers. Courtney's face has gone gray. She opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again. That's not I didn't. But the video doesn't lie. It just plays, silent and damning. Mom releases my hand. She stands, moves closer to me, putting herself between me and Arthur's side of the room. Liam is standing too, his weathered face twisted with anger. You accused my niece, he says, his voice rough. You looked us all in the eye and accused her. Some of the cousins are shifting away from Arthur and Courtney, creating distance, choosing sides. Mrs. Patterson from down the road catches my eye and nods. Just once, but it means something. The video stops. Thorne reaches into his briefcase again. He produces a small velvet box, navy blue, the kind jewelry comes in. He opens it, and even from here I can see the sapphire necklace inside, the stones catching the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Good news, Thorne says, and there's something almost gentle in his voice now. I was able to recover the sapphire necklace before it was sold. He walks over to me, places the box in my lap. I stare at it. At the necklace Grandma wore to every holiday dinner, the one Grandpa bought her for their 40th anniversary. My hands are shaking. The will contains a morality clause, Thorne says, addressing the room again. Anyone who stole from Mrs. Mitchell forfeits their inheritance and becomes liable for the full replacement value of the stolen items, $150,000, regardless of what they received from the fence. Arthur's face changes. I watch the calculation happen behind his eyes. $150,000 they don't have. Can't have. This is insane, he says, but his voice has lost its power. Courtney is crying now. Not pretty crying. The kind where your face goes blotchy and your nose runs. I close the velvet box. The snap echoes. Grandma knew. She knew everything. She saw it all happening and she planned for this moment. Planned for me, because she knew I couldn't fight them myself. And she was right. But she gave me the weapons anyway. The laptop stays connected to the television. Thorne's hands move with the precision of a surgeon, clicking through files I didn't know existed. My chest feels tight, like someone's wrapped their fists around my lungs and refuses to let go. There's more, Thorne says. Courtney shifts in her seat. She stopped scrolling through her phone. For the first time since I walked through that door, she looks uncertain. The screen flickers. New footage appears. Time stamped 3 months ago. Kitchen camera. I recognize the table immediately, the one where Grandma used to roll out pie dough. Flour dusting everything within 3 feet. Arthur sits across from Courtney. Both of them lean forward like conspirators. I told everyone Cassie is casing the joint. Courtney's voice comes through the speakers, clear as a church bell. She's smiling. Actually smiling. By the time the will is read, everyone will believe she's the thief. My stomach drops. Arthur nods, drumming his fingers on the table. How much did the watch bring in? Courtney's grin widens. 20,000. The sapphire got 30,000. Total, 50,000. The room explodes. Someone behind me gasps so hard it sounds like choking. Uncle Liam surges to his feet, fists clenched, but another cousin grabs his arm. Beatrice covers her mouth with both hands, her face gone pale. Mom's grip on my hand tightens until it hurts, but I barely feel it. I'm watching Courtney on that screen, laughing about framing me. About stealing from Grandma and then making me the villain? How could you? Helen's voice cuts through the chaos. She's standing now, staring at Courtney and Arthur like they're strangers. How could you do this to family? Arthur waves a dismissive hand. This is entrapment. Mother was clearly senile, manipulated by lawyers. He points at Thorne. You took advantage of an old woman. Mrs. Mitchell had full mental capacity, Thorne says, his voice level. Documented by 2 independent physicians. Would you like to see those reports as well? Arthur's jaw works, but no words come out. Courtney tries to stand. A cousin I barely know steps into her path, arms crossed. She sits back down hard, her phone clattering onto the hardwood floor. We'll contest this in court, Arthur says, but his voice wavers. We'll tie this up for years. I can't stop staring at that frozen image on the television. Courtney's face, caught mid-laugh. She looks so pleased with herself. Relatives move closer to me. Hands touch my shoulder, my arm. Beatrice appears beside Mom, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she whispers. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Other voices layer over hers. Cousins I haven't spoken to in years, all of them saying the same things. How sorry they are. How they should have known better. How obvious it seems now. Helen addresses the room, her voice shaking but fierce. My daughter spent every weekend here out of love. She took care of her grandmother because she wanted to, not because she was after anything. Heads nod. The energy in the room shifts, realigning like iron filings near a magnet. Everyone who'd been standing near Arthur and Courtney has moved away, leaving them isolated in their corner. Thorne closes his laptop briefly, then reopens it. Mrs. Mitchell installed this surveillance system 8 months ago. She was quite specific about camera placement, the office, the kitchen, the front entry. My grandmother did that? I hear myself say. My voice sounds distant, like it's coming from underwater. She did. Thorne pulls out his phone, shows the screen to those closest. Cloud backup, multiple secure servers. She was quite thorough. For an 82-year-old retired baker, she understood digital security remarkably well. Someone laughs. It's not a happy sound, more like disbelief mixed with admiration. I remember those weekends, Grandma asking about apps and settings, me thinking she just wanted to video chat with friends. The whole time, she'd been protecting me, building a case I didn't know I needed. My vision blurs. I blink hard, refusing to cry in front of Courtney. Arthur tries again. You can't use this footage. It's illegal to record people without consent. Single-party consent state, Thorne says without looking up. Mrs. Mitchell had every legal right to record in her own home. Arthur's face goes from red to purple. He looks around the room, searching for allies. Finds none. Courtney hasn't said a word since her voice filled the room from those speakers. She sits perfectly still, staring at the floor. I stand. Slowly. My legs shake, but they hold. Stop. The word comes out quieter than I intended, but somehow everyone hears it. The room falls silent. Just stop. Arthur opens his mouth. I raise my hand. Grandma knew. My voice is steady now, stronger. She knew everything. Every conversation you had, every item you took, every lie you spread. I looked directly at Courtney. She knew, and she still gave you a chance to be decent. You chose this. Tears stream down my face, but I don't wipe them away. Let them see. Let everyone see what this cost. Mom stands beside me, her arm around my shoulders. She protected me even after she was gone, I say. That's what real family does. Thorne straightens. The room leans forward as one. There's one more video to show. My heart stutters. More? What else could there possibly be? Several relatives move to block the doorway. Courtney glances toward the exit, but there's nowhere to go. Arthur's bravado crumbles visibly, his shoulders sagging. The screen flickers to life again. And there she is, Grandma Josephine. Sitting in her favorite chair, the one by the window where afternoon light always made her hair look golden. She's thinner than I remember, her skin papery, but her eyes blaze with something fierce and unmistakable. She looks directly into the camera. Directly at us. If you are watching this, she says, her voice raspy but clear. The wolves have shown their teeth. The room holds its breath, every eye fixed on the screen, on her, on what she's about to say. Someone behind me gasps. Courtney is trying to edge toward the door. Uncle Liam moves to block her path without saying a word. Grandma pauses, looks directly at the camera. Directly at us. I may have been old, but I was never stupid. Arthur starts to rise. This is... Sit down, Mr. Vance. Thorne doesn't raise his voice, but something in his tone makes Arthur sink back into his chair. On screen, Grandma adjusts her glasses. The gesture is so familiar it hurts. Arthur, Courtney, I watched you. I watched you steal from me. I watched you plot against my granddaughter. She leans forward slightly, and despite the frailty, despite the illness I know was eating at her, she looks fierce. Family doesn't mean accepting abuse. It never has. Courtney makes a sound, half sob, half protest. Nobody looks at her. Grandma's expression softens. The change is so abrupt I feel tears spring to my eyes before I can stop them. Cassie, honey, her voice goes gentle. If you're seeing this, I'm gone. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there to stand beside you when they came at you with their lies. But I gave you the next best thing. I can't breathe. Mom's grip on my hand has gone from supportive to painful, but I don't pull away. Thank you, Grandma says, for teaching me this contraption. For your patience when I kept hitting the wrong buttons and getting frustrated. You never made me feel stupid. You never made me feel like a burden. She smiles. And it's the same smile from 4 years ago, when she finally figured out how to check her email. You visited me out of love, sweetheart. Not obligation. Not greed. Just love. And that's rarer than gold coins or sapphire necklaces. Someone in the room is crying. I think it might be Beatrice. Grandma glances down at something off camera, then back up. I remember that conversation we had after your grandfather's funeral. You told me about your dream. A clinic for children whose families couldn't afford fancy doctors. Kids who needed someone to care. Her eyes get bright, and I realize she's fighting tears too. Fought them, past tense. This was recorded a week before she died. You have a servant's heart, Cassie, and people with servant hearts need protecting, because the takers of this world will bleed you dry if you let them. My throat is so tight I can barely swallow. So, here's what I'm doing. Grandma straightens in her chair. All business now. The entire estate goes to Cassandra Mitchell. $3.5 million. The farmhouse. The 20 acres. Every asset I have. She knows what to do with it. The room erupts, not in the chaotic way it did during Courtney's accusation, but in a wave of affirming murmurs. I hear people saying, good, and, as it should be, and, about time. Arthur stands again, his face purple. You can't. Let her finish, Thorne says. His hand is resting on his laptop, ready to pause the video if necessary, but Grandma's still talking. Cassie told me she wanted to open a community clinic. A place where every child could get care, regardless of what their parents could afford. After-school programs, counseling, a playground even. Grandma's smile grows. Now that is a fine legacy. Better than any amount of money sitting in a bank. Better than a farmhouse collecting dust. I remember saying those exact words to her, describing the dream I'd barely let myself believe in. She'd listened so carefully, asking questions, making me paint the whole picture for her. Use this inheritance for your dream, honey. Build something that matters. Help those kids who need you. She pauses, and something mischievous crosses her face. Something so quintessentially Grandma that I almost laugh despite the tears running down my face. She winks at the camera. And never underestimate a baker with Wi-Fi. The video ends. The screen goes black. For a moment, nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Then Thorne closes his laptop with a soft click. He stands, surveys the room with the same neutral expression he's maintained this entire time. Arthur Vance, Courtney Vance. Your original bequests of $15,000 and $5,000 are hereby forfeited under the morality clause of Mrs. Mitchell's will. What? Courtney's voice cracks. Furthermore, Thorne continues, you are jointly liable for the full replacement value of all the stolen items, $150,000, due within 30 days. Arthur lunges forward. We don't have $150,000. Then I suggest you find it. Thorne opens his briefcase, pulls out another folder. The alternative is that I turn this entire evidence file over to the district attorney. Theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, and criminal defamation. The district attorney has already reviewed the preliminary evidence and is prepared to file charges. He looks at them over his reading glasses. I'm told the potential jail time is considerable. Courtney is shaking. Actually shaking. This is insane. She can't do this. She already did, Thorne says simply. Arthur turns on me. His face is twisted with rage, and for a second I think he might actually try to hit me. You won't get away with this. He reaches for the laptop. Liam moves fast, grabbing Arthur's arm and twisting it back. Two of my cousins I barely know step in, putting themselves between Arthur and Thorne. Don't, Liam says quietly. Just don't. Mom stands, pulling me up with her. She wraps her arms around me, and I realize I'm shaking worse than Courtney, but it's different. I'm shaking with relief, with grief, with something that feels like freedom starting to crack through the ice I've been frozen in. People are congratulating me. Neighbors I haven't spoken to in years are offering to help with whatever I need. Helen is crying, but she's smiling too, whispering, I'm so sorry, I didn't know, over and over. Thorne approaches me with a small package wrapped in brown paper. Mrs. Mitchell left this for you specifically, to be given after the video. My hands tremble as I unwrap it. Inside is Grandma's recipe book, the one she'd kept for 60 years, handwritten notes in the margins, stains on half the pages from decades of use. There's a note tucked inside the front cover, her handwriting shaky but legible. For the clinic's bake sales. Love, Grandma. I clutch the book to my chest and let myself cry. In the corner, Arthur and Courtney sit isolated. Courtney is scrolling through her phone frantically, probably trying to figure out how to spin this on social media. Arthur just stares at the floor, his empire of vape shops and patriarchal authority crumbling around him. All documents were properly witnessed and notarized, Thorne announces to the room. The evidence is backed up in multiple secure locations. Mrs. Mitchell was very thorough. He looks directly at Arthur and Courtney. Justice is served. Quote, and for the first time in my life, I believe it. 2 weeks after the will reading, someone knocks on my apartment door at 7 a.m. I'm halfway through my coffee, still in pajamas, and when I check the peephole, Arthur stands there looking like he hasn't slept in days. I open the door exactly 6 inches. What do you want? Can I come in? His voice sounds hollow. Please, Cassie, we need to talk. We don't. He puts his hand on the doorframe. Not aggressive, just tired. Your grandmother wouldn't want this. Family shouldn't destroy family. You're right, I say. She wouldn't want theft. She wouldn't want conspiracy. She definitely wouldn't want you framing me for crimes you committed. Think of Courtney's future. I almost laugh. I did. That's why I watched those videos 3 times. The ones where she planned to destroy mine. His jaw tightens. $150,000 will ruin us. Then you shouldn't have stolen $50,000. I step back. Goodbye, Arthur. I close the door. Lock it. Stand there shaking for 5 full minutes before my coffee goes cold. That afternoon, Courtney launches her counterattack across Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Her posts show up on my feed because we're still technically connected, and Mom calls me crying before I've even finished reading the first one. The caption says, "When family betrays you for money." My grandmother's estate was stolen by a manipulative cousin who turned her against us in her final months. Elderly abuse is real. Justice will prevail. The comments fill with hearts and supportive messages from people who have no idea what actually happened. By evening, she's posted 4 more times. Each one paints me as a villain. Mom shows up at my apartment with printouts. Actual paper copies of Courtney's posts, like evidence for a trial. Linda's getting calls, Mom says. Linda is her sister, Courtney's mother. She wants you to take the money and drop everything else. Keep the peace. Kay. There is no peace to keep. But family. Family doesn't steal from each other, I say. Family doesn't frame innocent people. And family sure as hell doesn't launch social media campaigns full of lies. Mom sets the papers on my kitchen table. Some of the cousins believe her version. Then they weren't paying attention at the reading. The next morning, I find an envelope taped to my car in the hospital parking lot. No return address. Inside is a single sheet of paper with words cut from magazines like some bad movie. Drop this or suffer consequences. I take a picture of it with my phone and send it straight to Mr. Thorne. His office calls me an hour later. Miss Mitchell, Can you come in today? We need to discuss next steps. Later that day, Thorne's office smells like old books and lemon polish. He gestures to the chair across from his desk, and I sink into leather that's been broken in by decades of clients with problems like mine. The threats are escalating, he says, folding his hands. We need to decide how far you want to take this. What are my options? Accept their offer and walk away. Or, we press charges, theft, conspiracy, fraud. Courtney could face jail time. Arthur would likely avoid prison but face significant fines and a criminal record. I stare at the window behind him. Outside, traffic moves in predictable patterns. People going about their normal lives while mine splits into two possible futures. If I press charges, the family will never forgive me. If you don't, Thorne says quietly, they'll know they can get away with anything. I think about Grandma in her kitchen, stabbing at that tablet screen with determination, teaching herself technology at 82 because she refused to be left behind. Planning this entire strategy because she knew exactly who Arthur and Courtney were. She gave me the tools to fight back, I say. I'm using them. Thorne nods once. Then we proceed. Over the next week, Thorne moves like a chess master, executing a plan 30 moves deep. He contacts every brand sponsor Courtney has ever worked with, sending formal notices about pending fraud investigations and documented evidence of criminal activity. Morality clauses in her contracts start triggering. He notifies the IRS about the stolen goods and the real value, Courtney's fencing, plus 3 years of undeclared influencer income. Turns out, selling her lifestyle to followers means the government wants their cut. He sends a formal notice to Arthur's bank about fraudulent acquisition of assets and pending legal action. The bank, already threatening foreclosure on his vape shops, accelerates their timeline. The local paper picks up the story 5 days later. Grandmother's digital evidence exposes family theft. The reporter interviews Thorne, publishes excerpts from court filings, includes still frames from the videos with faces blurred but context crystal clear. Courtney's Instagram goes dark that afternoon. Her sponsors drop her by evening. One posts a statement, "We do not associate with individuals under criminal investigation." Arthur's business reputation crumbles in 48 hours. His suppliers start demanding cash on delivery. His partners distance themselves publicly. On day 29, Thorne calls. "They're here. Can you come now?" I leave the hospital mid-shift. My supervisor understands after I explain why. Arthur and Courtney sit in Thorne's waiting room, looking like different people. Arthur's suit is wrinkled. Courtney wears no makeup, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Both avoid eye contact when I walk past. Inside Thorne's office, a cashier's check for $50,000 sits on his desk. They liquidated everything, Thorne says. Mortgaged the vape shops, sold Courtney's Mercedes. This is their last asset. Arthur and Courtney enter when Thorne calls them. They look at me like I'm a stranger. I pick up the check. "Grandma forgave you." I choose to move forward. Courtney's shoulders drop with relief. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I continue. And it doesn't mean stopping the consequences you earned. This restitution is separate from the criminal complaint. What? Arthur's voice cracks. We paid. You paid what you owed for theft, Thorne says. The fraud investigation proceeds independently. I sign the no-contact order Thorne prepared. Arthur and Courtney sign it too, their hands shaking. When they leave, Arthur doesn't try to hug me. Courtney doesn't look back. 3 days later, an official IRS envelope arrives at Courtney's address. Federal investigators want records going back 3 years. Tax evasion charges are pending. Arthur files for bankruptcy the same week. And I stand at Josie's farmhouse watching construction crews break ground on the clinic, holding architectural plans that have her handwriting in the margins. Make it welcoming. 6 months later, and the farmhouse doesn't look like itself anymore. Or maybe it looks more like itself than it ever has. I stand in the driveway wearing jeans and a faded gray t-shirt, watching contractors install the final pieces of the playground equipment. The swing set gleams in the afternoon sun. A slide curves down in bright primary colors Grandma would have loved. The sign near the road reads, Josie's Place, Community Clinic and Center in letters big enough to see from the highway. One of the contractors, a man named Tom with paint-stained work boots, gestures toward the side yard. By the east windows, I say without hesitation. Morning light works best for the after-school program rooms. He nods and heads off. I don't second-guess myself anymore. Don't apologize for having opinions. Don't shrink back, hoping someone else will decide. Inside, the rooms that used to hold Grandma's quilting supplies and guest beds now hold child-sized tables and art supplies. The kitchen where she taught me to make snickerdoodles is getting commercial-grade appliances for cooking classes. Her bedroom upstairs is being converted into my office, where I'll run the clinic operations. Mrs. Patterson shuffles through the front door using her walker, her daughter Amy supporting her elbow. They're early for their appointment, but that's fine. Everything here runs on patience, not schedules. Come sit down, Mrs. Patterson, I say, pulling out one of the new chairs in what used to be the living room. The furniture is different now, arranged for consultations instead of family gatherings, but Grandma's photos still hang on the walls. Mrs. Patterson settles with a grateful sigh. Amy says I need one of those tablet things to see pictures of my grandkids in California. I smile, pulling a chair close. You've got this, let me show you. Her eyes widen when I hand her the tablet. Oh honey, I'm too old for this. The words punch straight through me. 4 years ago, almost exactly, Grandma sitting in her kitchen, frustrated and stubborn and absolutely convinced she couldn't learn. Nonsense, I say, echoing words I learned from the best teacher I ever had. You've got this. I guide her through it the same way Grandma taught me to guide her. Slow, patient, celebrating every small success. When Mrs. Patterson successfully opens her email app, she actually squeals. Well, look at that. Her face lights up exactly the way Grandma's did. I did it. Amy wipes her eyes. Thank you, Cassie. Mom's been so nervous about technology. Technology just needs a patient teacher, I say. That's something my grandmother taught me. Mom arrives an hour later with Liam, both of them carrying boxes of donated supplies. She hugs me tight in the doorway, and I don't pull away. Don't minimize the moment. Just let myself be held. I'm so proud of you, she whispers. Liam sets down his boxes and surveys the construction progress. Grandma would have loved this. She planned it, I say simply. Because she did. Every piece of this. Not just the money, though that made it possible. She planned my freedom, my ability to stand up without crumbling. My chance to build something that mattered. The extended family shows up on Saturdays now to volunteer. Cousins who barely spoke to me at the will reading now paint walls and organize supplies. They apologize sometimes, awkwardly, for believing Courtney's lies. I don't hold it against them. Manipulation works because it's convincing. We're starting a support group next month. For people dealing with family manipulation. Abuse survivors who need a safe place. I'll share my story, and maybe it'll help someone else realize that protecting yourself isn't selfish. Grandma taught me documentation beats accusation. I tell the volunteers during our planning meeting. But more than that, she taught me that family should build you up, not tear you down. Arthur works at a gas station now. I heard it from a cousin who saw him pumping gas on Route 9, wearing a uniform with a name tag. His vape stores got seized by creditors. He lives in a studio apartment near the interstate. Courtney's still waiting for her trial. Federal tax evasion charges don't move quickly, but they move thoroughly. Her social media accounts are gone, all those carefully curated photos of a life that was mostly fiction. She works retail at the outlet mall, the kind of job she used to mock. I don't celebrate their downfall. Don't feel triumphant about their suffering. I just feel free. Late afternoon, after everyone leaves, I stand alone in Grandma's kitchen. My kitchen now. The recipe book sits on the counter, flour-dusted and well-loved. I'm making her snickerdoodles for tomorrow's clinic opening. The sunset streams through the windows, painting everything gold. Outside, I hear children's laughter from the neighborhood kids, already claiming the playground as theirs. On the wall, I've hung a photo of Grandma and me at that first tablet lesson, both of us grinning. Beside it, a framed dollar bill. The first donation to the clinic, from a neighbor who remembered Grandma's kindness. And tucked in the corner, a note in Grandma's handwriting that I found in the recipe book. Truth always wins. I smile, rolling dough between my palms, and realize I'm not trying to keep peace anymore. I'm living it.